Following law school, I entered into the FBI as a special agent. My last year was the Martin Luther King March from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. There was a real move by various groups to end desegregation in the South. The other area was voting rights. It really picked up steam in the 64 and 65 in Mississippi and Alabama. In Alabama, specifically in Dallas County, which Selma was the county seat. In Selma, or for Dallas County, Sheriff Jim Clark. He was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. He was very much a segregationist. Martin Luther King made several appearances in Selma. What really got the movement moving was an incident that occurred in mid-February of 1965 involving the shooting of a black male. Jimmy Lee Jackson was with his grandmother at a march and at a demonstration. The grandmother was being pushed around. He interceded, and the Alabama State Police then interceded with him. They decided to march from Selma to Montgomery, which was about 50 miles, on this Sunday on March the 7th of 1965. They had to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Waiting on the other side of the bridge for them was a line of Alabama State Police. Behind them were Sheriff Clark's posse. The police started moving toward the group. Then they started clubbing them and beating them, and then the sheriff's posse on horseback came in and rode into them, and there was tear gas. The news media was covering it. They referred to this as Bloody Sunday, and it got national attention. Martin Luther King was not in that march. They decided they were going to have a march, March the 9th. They were also going to invite ministers from around the country to come and march. They got across the bridge and saw the same line of Alabama State Police. Martin Luther King, he asked everybody to kneel down and that they were going to pray. He felt that it was a trap. So they turned around and they went back. Later that evening, one of the ministers was shot and eventually died. Meanwhile, all this was going on. There was a legal element involved to get a court order to allow them to march or to walk from Selma to Montgomery. One of our alums, Fred Gray, who was a graduate of our law school, was the lead attorney. President Lyndon Johnson nationalized the Alabama National Guard. He also sent about 50 FBI agents in, and I was one of the FBI agents. But our role was to observe any violation of that court order which would have interfered with them and their ability to walk. There was name-calling, but nothing that really interfered with the march. On the very last day of the march, there were about 25,000 who marched through the town and up to the state capitol where Martin Luther King spoke. We all returned to Selma. Around 9 o'clock that evening, we received a call that there had been a killing of a civil rights worker right outside of Selma, a white woman, Viola Liuzzo, accompanied by a young black male, were transporting marchers back to Selma. They were on their way back to Montgomery to pick up some more marchers. 4 Klan members followed the car out of Selma and started shooting into the car. One of the members of the Klan was an FBI informant. So when he got back to Birmingham, he called the FBI agent and said, "Here's what happened. Once we passed the car, we all unloaded our weapons and threw the cartridges out the window. We're taking our guns to work with us, and we're going to throw them in the blast furnaces to destroy them." That next morning, there were Bureau agents waiting at each one of their homes. We had our meeting, and they said now there's going to be 5 agents to walk the highway and find the spent cartridges. I was one of those chosen. We walked the highway from the point we knew the killing occurred. Trailing us about a quarter of a mile behind us were members of the Alabama State Police searching for the same thing. On the 5th day, we found all of the spent rounds, and of course the FBI laboratory could match them all up with each of the guns that was fired. Eventually, either one or two people were convicted under the civil rights statutes.